I'm going to have a crack at explaining why this is news today. And I think it's quite straightforward. It's born of the knowledge, not the suspicion, but the knowledge that a lot of contracts have been awarded during the context of the process of the coronavirus. A lot of very lucrative contracts have been awarded in ways that seem suspicious. They have been awarded in ways that breach the rules. The defence, as I understand it, is and remains that things were moving so quickly and it was so urgent that if someone you met at a dinner party round at Tristram's house told you that they could get their hands on a couple of million boxes of face masks from a contact in China, then why on earth would you insist that they go through the normal channels and the normal routines and the normal routes? Answer: because they exist to make sure that everything is done as efficiently and as honestly as possible. And if you don't go through all the normal channels and routines and routes, then you quite possibly end up buying shed loads of PPE from Derek Trotter's Turkish cousin. And by the time it arrives here, it turns out that it's completely unfit for purpose. But that's the defence. The defence is it was an urgent emergency. We had to do it. So getting to the bottom of just how dodgy these deals may have been would obviously involve having a butcher's at all of the correspondence between the relevant politicians and the relevant business people. I would remind you at this point not only that Matt Hancock's own sister secured contracts for provision of PPE supplies as the head of a company in which Matt Hancock has shares, but it emerged over the weekend that Matt Hancock's mistress also has a brother who secured contracts for lucrative supplies in the context of the coronavirus. Do you know, I've done it again. Happens every day at the moment. I knew this. Obviously I knew it, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to explain it to you. As I say the words out loud, the weight of the scandal settles upon my shoulders. Matt Hancock's sister runs a company that got some of these contracts, and so does his mistress's brother. It may turn out that it was all absolutely above board, nothing to see here, please move along. But I'd like to know why your sister and my brother, I don't have a brother, my sister and your brother couldn't have landed contracts like this as well. And we also know that the likelihood of securing a contract, it was enhanced immeasurably, I think by a factor of 10, although I may have misremembered that, if you were on this so-called VIP fast lane that was set up to let people who had contacts in government, whether by being donors or something a little bit less obnoxious than that, were more likely to get the contracts. So if you want to get to the bottom of whether or not there has been malfeasance, corruption, excessive cronyism, well, any cronyism is excessive, actually, then you would need to see the contact, right? You would need to see the communications. And that, I think, and obviously I'm working it out as we go along, that I think is why the fact that Matt Hancock used personal Gmail instead of official accounts during the pandemic is so potentially problematic. Leaked emails now show that officials warned that he'd spoken to aides via Gmail and had no Department of Health and Social Care inbox. So they expressed these leaks, fears of a transparency black hole ahead of any COVID inquiry. And if I'm reading these leaked emails correctly, and I'm fairly confident that I am, the only reason that this has emerged, or rather the only reason this meeting was called, from which the minutes have now been leaked, was because of our good friends over at the Good Law Project, Jolly and Morm's crusading operation, are challenging the awarding of COVID-19 test contracts. So when they were having a meeting about how are we going to fend off this interest in how contracts were awarded, it emerged that Matt Hancock had been using private email accounts to conduct conversations with aides, and that led to fears expressed here of a transparency black hole ahead of the COVID inquiry. So that's pretty huge, potentially.